So I followed up with Rosanna about where you guys ended on Friday. So she said you guys finished 1,415 and then 3,320.
Yes.
So I sent it out for parents so you guys can see all the feedback, and it's actually in our stakeholder folder in the policy deal. I haven't had a chance to follow up. There were 2 parents that wanted follow up, so I will do that this week. The one you highlighted, that's a mom I can reach out to.
That is something though that I was curious about, because I know that was one thing I struggled with in our policy, is that everything sort of gets started and we're not necessarily always, our first point of contact isn't always to the parent. So I don't know if we want to look at that or bring that up to the board, or
The reasonable suspicion
right,
aspect of
because
it.
I think, I mean, you know, she's saying, period here, having a moment. Yeah, because if someone's thought one of her children had a vape pen, searched them without contacting the parent, to me, I think that's walking a line.
Yeah, did we put immediate contact in there?
We would have to go back to our student discipline one.
Yeah. Well, let's go to, what did we put in 3320?
Oh, if they only knew.
Right.
Especially our contact with the teachers in the school and not enough accountability. It's like, right.
Number 2 does say if the student admits to being under, the student's parent will be immediately called. But number
Okay.
7 says if a student does not admit to the use of a controlled substance, a trained staff member continues to have reasonable suspicion, an investigation will be conducted.
And that's something we need to obviously talk with you about, and Lisa, because according to statute, I mean, our staff members trained properly for recognition of substance use and alcohol, because the statute requires them to be trained. And so we don't know if any, especially at the secondary schools, if anybody's been trained. I mean, police officers, yes, So I think our armed guards should be,
I know they
aware,
are. I think
but-
the administrators are, but beyond that, I don't know. That's a follow-up question. I can go ask her.
okay.
I feel like if a staff member thought they suspected something, it would just go straight to the armed guard and the administrator. Like it would get pushed to them.
Okay.
They would be removed from the situation.
But Timberlake doesn't have an armed guard.
Right. So they'd call the SRO. Or
Okay.
their administrators would step in. I don't think it.
Right, but then that would imply that the administrator's been trained.
Right.
And that to me is specific language,
Yeah.
meaning you've gone through a training to.
Well, and it probably should be an annual training.
It should be, because, you've got to understand what you're looking for. And I remember, it was a long while ago, but one of the kids at Lakeland got in trouble because they were chewing gum that smelled like marijuana. So they automatically were like, oh, the kid's high, blah, blah, and police were called. And it was just the gum. The kid
Right.
wasn't. And so obviously no one had been trained to understand what the signs and symptoms are.
And all through this it says trained.
Yes.
So I'll research what the actual train is, because
Okay.
I can tell you at the elementary level we didn't.
And,
It should be the middle school and the high school for sure.
definitely, but if this is going to be if this is going to be a policy that's going to be utilized throughout our district, I would think at least one member of faculty in an elementary school
100%.
should have some training
Right.
to be called into the situation and be made aware.
I feel like the administrator should be. I get like some of our elementaries have our armed guards and have
Right.
SROs, but because not all of them, there should be one
Correct.
person that's trained in every building.
Right.
So
And I don't want to make the assumption that our armed guards are trained either, because if they haven't received the training
Right.
once they've been employed, then technically they're not considered trained.
I'm just gonna ask. I'll follow up with Lisa and see if that's something where we're having,
Okay.
Rathrum PD come in, and it's part of the first admin meeting. Like it's
Right.
part of the what does this training look like? So I'll follow up.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
But I didn't want that word to be overlooked because it is specific to
100%.
statute. So
And statute doesn't define what trained means. Yeah.
no, it doesn't, because we were looking for that, and it was
Yeah.
like, well, okay, trained.
Yeah.
That must mean you've had some specific training to
Mm-hmm.
that. Now, see, in number 7, what I'm interpreting that to be is that the search begins. So the search begins, and a law enforcement's called, and your parents will be reached out to. Well, it says will be immediately called, but it's kind of muddled in with.
Put it to the beginning of the sentence.
I would think it should be.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to say, but
Right.
it's muddied.
Yeah, what are we gonna do about that grievance policy? Just write our own and quit waiting on them? We've been waiting for almost 2 years now.
I have it listed in here as a follow-up because we talked about it, but
Okay.
and I added the uniform and the staff, so 4120
Mm-hmm.
and then 5250. But
Or-
4120, the last time you approved it was 6/10/21.
Right.
Well, maybe we did work on something with that. I mean, there's a lot of explanation behind some of these statements that are made, or of why or how come, or you know.
And we don't know who made these comments, correct? If they don't identify themselves.
Which one are you talking about, Ramona?
Everybody that made a comment, but the very first one,
Yeah, I don't know.
you know, I think most of what they're talking about, it was taken out and moved to the, and as far as the communication thing, I mean, historically, the trustees were, I don't know if you say not allowed, but it was a big fight if the superintendent found out you were going to school without her presence. And they can't call an emergency meeting because that's the law. You know, the parents or student councils or admin, I mean, they could have their own school meeting or something, I guess, but they can't.
I don't understand what a thorough communication plan would be, given that, I mean, according to the law, we have one employee.
Right.
And that is intentional. I mean,
right.
So our presence in the school isn't for us to tell the administration or the teachers what to do and how to do it.
Right.
It's just a show of support and making sure they have
what they need. Yeah.
So I don't know if this person truly understands what a trustee's job is.
Yeah, I was gonna write an article or a series of articles.
Well, I feel like that policy that we asked Rosanna, what is it? Which one is it? Rosanna, the one you're working on, the 1240. Do you feel like that would be helpful? Because that lists
What do you mean?
all your responsibilities.
Right, but it's not, I mean, our responsibility isn't to have a communication plan with every single person in the district. We're trying to implement an open communication philosophy that if you got something to chat about, let's chat.
Right.
But we're not the czars of the school district going in and.
But I think in this policy, once we get to 1240, like we reference it, because then I think that gives a better understanding of what your actual duties are.
That's true. We can filter people back because.
Right. Like I think we actually link it in with a live link. Yeah.
Right. And I think that people are have the preference of everything being within every single policy, so they don't have to go a little farther. And we have to stop doing that because things get overlooked. And so that's just going to be a re-education.
Yep.
Letting people know.
one of the other it's the same way.
Yeah. So, so that if we just, I corrected 3320 to say, on that number 7, if a student does not admit to the use of a controlled substance and or alcohol, and a trained staff member continues to have reasonable suspicion, then, and if I'm kind of a gal, you gotta put that in there. Then an investigation will be conducted. The parent, legal guardian, or custodian and law enforcement will be immediately called, and a search of the student's locker, desk, car, or any other school property used by the student will be conducted. So I just
feel like
flipped the sentences.
Honored with the parent.
I hope so. Do you think that is?
Well, I think what they're wanting is that no search or anything would be done until
the parent arrives.
Right. Yeah, until they're on site or. Let me go back to the comment.
we could say a search of the student's locker, desk, or whatever, or property used by the student will be conducted upon the arrival of but can then also be conducted without the parent if law enforcement has arrived and believes
Well,
there's
law
a
enforcement's
violation.
a different, yeah, I mean, we have no
They have
control
to,
over
they don't,
that.
reasonable suspicion doesn't fall under law enforcement.
for schools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reasonable suspicion, didn't we put the definition in here? Because
We
it
did.
was-
But
it was
remember the
different.
Texas guy, Michelle, was saying that if you do your MOU and you write it a certain way, that they could fall under that reasonable suspicion, but otherwise, they have to, their term is, do you remember what their term is, Rosanna? It is not reasonable suspicion, it is,
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
I mean, there has to be, like, legit, I can't remember. Now, we could write the MOUs like that, which is what the Texas people were
Right.
referencing, but ours aren't written like that.
Okay. So my only question then is, what happens if we suspect kid says nothing, plead the fifth, which is fine, but we can't reach the parent? Then what?
Well, under our current policy, if we leave it like that, you have to wait until you have access to a parent.
I know.
Or you could just say, you know, every effort is made, and then at some point because now this kid's out of class.
Probable
Right.
cause.
It's probable cause. Yeah.
Okay. I hear you. But I think with the climate and culture, the reality is I want to show parents we're respecting the rights of their children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it a detriment to make a kid sit in the office because they couldn't contact the parent? If the child is under the influence? I mean, by the time school comes out and whatever's worn off.
You definitely want them away from other kids.
Right. So
The,
is it a
the
problem?
detriment would only be is if your reasonable suspicion
Was wrong.
was wrong.
Right.
But that's where the training comes in.
Correct. Oh, I like your ring. That's very pretty.
Oh, thank you.
You want to weigh in on this, Miss Ramona?
Well, you know me, I'm always for the parent, don't do anything till the parent's there kind of thing. And if we're talking about drugs and alcohol, I mean, obviously if the child were high on something where they were,
The eyes would tell.
yeah, or they were cognitively, something was wrong, they were so, I mean, I would think that we would probably just call an ambulance or,
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think
do
when it
them, I
becomes
mean-
a safety issue,
Yeah.
then all of that and you're
Right.
gonna make sure the kid's fine.
Right.
Right.
right, I mean, that obviously you would intervene and,
Right.
you know, but if the kids,
But even in that situation, like, so, you know, we've had I know for sure Timberlake, but possibly Lakeland, there was an overdose situation. And if you couldn't get a hold of a parent and you are calling 911 because you're concerned, like, the principal goes with the child. We don't
Right.
leave that child by themselves.
Right.
right,
So there's an adult until
Yeah.
a parent or guardian can
yeah, and
come.
in that, I mean, I think all kinds of other laws fall into place too, but yeah, I mean, I think if there's, back to the same thing, and won't we judge everything by, if there's no immediate harm, right, if there's no, whatever the verbiage is in the statute, you know, to protect,
Immediate risk or disruption of
Yeah,
learning.
There is an
Yeah.
imminent danger.
right, then, yeah, they just have to sit and wait, I guess, till the parent gets there.
Well, because the way I envision number 7 is not the situation where the child's like
Yeah.
unconscious. You got a kid that comes back to school after going off campus to lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and someone's like, "Whoa, dude," and you know the principal or whomever is like, "What were you doing at lunch? And did you do XYZ?" And the kid doesn't say anything. Well, then you call the parent.
Mm-hmm.
And if the parent doesn't answer, well, then they're sitting there for a couple hours. So I would rather err on that side.
Right. And the
Um,
other piece is you know, then you have cameras. Like there
Right.
is some of that is the kid can say no go, and yet you know.
Right.
And so then again, you're waiting on parents. Like, we know this is in fact the case. We don't know, you know, it's not like they're giving them any kind of test, but it's like, we know you were doing something.
Right.
So,
Now, my only other question is we state, we'll call the parent, and we call law enforcement because that's what statute is.
Yeah, it says we have to
Yeah.
do that, a shall.
Yeah. So we call the parent and law, and then the officer gets there.
then they're kind of taking the lead on that point.
Okay.
If it's proven that.
I would think they would have measures to test the student for out of concern of
Right.
their well-being or
But
what.
admin would not be a part of that.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do we see any flaws in the number 7?
No.
Okay.
Can you scroll to the bottom? What were our references all the way down, the legal references? Look up a little bit. Okay, so we had, are those all the references we have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looky there, when I linked in the C, I did that, just so you know. You're not even impressed. My heart is broken.
Are you talking to me
Awesome
or
job.
Rosanna or Ramona?
Great.
Lynn,
Oh, I like
linked
it.
it. I did it.
I was trying to multitask, so sorry. I love it. So do you feel like this one and 14 and 15 are good to go and be prepped for the board meeting?
I believe they are. There wasn't really.
If I get more info specific to the training, that would be the only thing, and we have until next Friday. Because we might want to put a little blurb of what our training definition looks like what that actually entails.
Right.
Don't you think?
I would
For
think so.
transparency.
I would think so.
Okay.
Rosanna, can you go to youthrights.org? Or you could just put it up in the address bar.
This seems just an excuse for which trustees are not bothered by teachers. Basically, no
And then
accountability.
under issues,
But
students' rights, and then
That's weird.
that's their website. Okay, so then that's fine. At the end of the students' rights, can you type in? Yeah, try that again. Okay, so just put your cursor up there after students' rights, and type in search hyphen and hyphen seizure / Okay, then scroll through there. Do you think, I think we should cite these federal cases? Keep going. Keep going, it's down quite a ways. Right there, oop. Yeah, up a little bit more.
Safford Unified School District, Reading.
Yeah, there's a,
Oh, that's specific to strip search.
yeah, keep going down. Under personal, right there.
Mm-hmm.
So
New
this,
Jersey, Burnham.
right, yeah, these are the ones, these are the cases that actually brought up when it comes to searching all the belongings at the school and reasonable suspicion and blah, 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 blah. And that students have a reduced expectation of privacy when they're in school. So,
Could we link those two specifically in? Is there another one?
well, there are, yes, they're right below that, down a little bit more. This one right here, parked cars on campus.
Student lockers.
Yeah, they're, so, I think it would behoove us, because what that was,
Mhm.
we know some of these things off the top of our head, or
Mhm.
we've been apprised to, but the parents don't, and that was one thing they asked is, well, that should be
Right, what
in
is
there.
this, what is
Yeah.
actually, do you want me to do this, Rosanna, or can you do it since you have it up? Can you just copy and paste and link it into 3320?
This here?
No,
No, the
this.
You
actual,
want me to click it?
no,
No.
Just copy and paste this, the text
Oh, the text,
itself.
yes
Yeah.
ma'am. This here?
yeah, well,
I
Or
would
the whole
start at
thing?
the top,
Or,
just the cases, just cite the cases, so the New Jersey TLO. Yep. Yep.
where shall I cite it?
All the way down at the, underneath the legal citations. Yep,
Not under IDAPA.
no, it should be.
Do it under the publications.
Yeah.
Under here.
Yes, but you'll
There you
have
go.
to, yeah, there you go. That's alright, just highlight it and then take the formatting off. And take
One
off-
more?
Take off the comma.
Yep.
And then, yeah, put, I think the US Supreme Court of 85 needs to be underneath the anti-drug. Oh, there we go, Michelle's got it.
That should actually be case law.
Yep.
I think this just helps build a better understanding.
Yep.
What the heck?
There you go.
But we're gonna
I
add a few
can't
more of
stand
those,
Google.
right?
Yeah, we are. Google drives me nuts. It's not as
Rosanna, will
user
you go
friendly.
back to that one
Uh-huh.
right there? So we're gonna do that one. We wanna do the Burnham
Mhm.
one. Right when Michelle gets it right.
It's fine, don't
She got it right there, yeah. So as soon as she puts her cursor, tab over Michelle or Rosanna, wherever, get your cursor right underneath the Jersey.
Oh yeah, just add it to Jersey. Up here.
Add it right here?
Yep.
One space.
Yep.
And then take off the formatting. There you go, let Michelle do that, go ahead and get the,
Next one.
yeah.
So then
Right there.
state versus Slattery. And do it right same as you just did, just put a space and then keep going. There's no,
What the heck?
I mean, you could just go on and on for all kinds of stuff, but
Those are probably okay.
yeah.
Thanks, Rosanna.
I think for the search and seizure part, because that's
Yeah.
the part the parents are gonna have the most.
Right. We also need to make sure that when we look at the search and seizure policy, that we make sure those are added.
Yeah. I mean, and this would be a good resource for,
Mhm.
like an annual resource, you know, to guide,
Mhm.
give this website to the parents so they understand that, you know, once they come on the
Mhm.
school campus, because there's so many things happening that, you
Right.
know.
Well, and just, understanding what privacy really means once
Right.
you come into a public forum.
Right.
Perfect. This one lost its link.
Do we have
What
like,
was that? That was
we get, the district could probably make its own little pamphlet kind of thing and
Mhm.
just, you know.
There could be an info
Yeah.
page for parents.
Yeah.
So I linked the jury
The
case
case.
back to that one, but the links are all showing up weird. So I don't know, Lynn, if you want to clean them up
I will.
or figure out,
Yep.
because all three of those cases are linked, but like the Berman doesn't look like it's linked, but it is.
Yep. And is the state versus, is it linked to?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm cleaning them up right now.
Okay.
Are we done with this one? You feel
Yeah.
like, can we
Yes.
jump to 3330, cause it's just one little part? So the, high school administrators, their only concern is if you go to 3330,
Uh-huh.
and it's on page, it's the exemption, so it's on page 5. There's a part where it says a firearm that is lawfully stored inside a locked vehicle on a school property is an exception. So, and then we cite the federal code
Hold on page 5.
of 3330. It's at the very top. It's right under exceptions to gun-free schools, right there.
That's not on my page 5.
Are you, which one are we?
I'm on the draft.
Oh,
Oh,
on,
you're not
I'm-
on the draft. Okay. That's
yeah, I'm on the actual one that we approved.
Which
Yeah, which one
is
that?
must no.
It just
there's
says
the
3330. I have that. That's the one that we have on the
July
website.
14th, it was last edited.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I don't know, cause like I'm not the master of Google. Word, yes, not Google.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way, like, once we master the policy
Mhm.
within this, we can do a folder and put historical actions into that folder, so there's just the one policy that we know of?
100% could do it. It just
Okay,
we just have to do it.
Yeah.
all right, do it.
Okay, you want me to do it?
Well, actually, Ramona, you can do that, can you not? Do you know, or Rosanna, I'm sorry.
Sure, create a folder, I'll write it down. Create a Google folder.
Well, no, when, in the policies.
In each individual policy.
Oh, okay, in each individual policy,
Do you want a final folder or a history folder?
I'd rather have a history folder so people
History.
know not to,
create a history folder
yes.
for each individual policy, right?
So
Nope.
And I can show you an example of what she's saying. So instead of having all 25 various ISBA and all of that, like, so let's just say policy 3330, it's gonna say student discipline when you open it, right?
Yes.
So in that, there is gonna be a folder that says historical versions, or whatever we wanna call it, and anything that we worked on, did, will be in there. And then the actual policy that was approved by the board, so there should only be two things. There should be a folder and then a Google Doc, that's
Yes.
it. Does that make sense?
See, if we had
Yes.
that new, I've been playing in Board Book actually does everything I've been complaining about. And I
Holy
think,
Lord.
I think it would do what you want it to do too.
Okay.
I think part of
Does
the
that make
problem-
sense, Rosanna?
I think so.
I'll help you, we'll do this one
Perfect.
together and I'll show you how to do it.
And then the protocol would be that when we review, whatever, when the policy comes up, then a new policy would be created with the date that it was created, or, whatever, and then that one would move into the historical, so that we don't ever not have the historical pieces.
Well, and I think the moment the policy has been approved, so Rosanna, this would just be my 2 cents, the moment it is approved, then the draft that you're gonna upload to the district website, it should say /approved 9/6/22 on the actual Google, like, we know it was, that doesn't have to be uploaded on the district website in the sense of its name, but the Google Doc will say when it was approved, so we don't have to then scroll down to see when it was approved. So
Okay.
when you pull up 3330, like in my mind right here, when you pull up 3330, if we make a change to this and it goes back to the board on August 17th, we will put /approved August 17th, 2022, so we know, and then that's the version we're working off of the next time, but we will have all the other history in the historical folder. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So I'll help you do one.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
So they have a document, and a manual option with Board Book, and it does just that it's literally, quality control, so every time you touched a document, it would not only keep automatically, it keeps a historical, and then you just mark it final or whatever, and you can click wherever and see,
Really?
yeah, it's like the way it should be.
Awesome.
And there were different tiers of the Premier that we have that does, because I've been emailing it back and forth, and it does do where you click the attachment on the agenda and it'll open up full screen. It doesn't have all those stupid little tabs. And then when you go back to the agenda, it automatically scrolls back to where you were, and then you just click the next thing. So, but we'd have to sit and look at it to see if it
Okay,
solves any of,
that would be sweet.
but there's a billion types of settings, and there's a lot of automation in it that we should be using, and all of the
Oh, I'm excited.
So would it be worthwhile bringing in somebody to do an official training of some of that stuff,
Well,
now
we-
that you know which questions to ask?
Yeah, we've asked for that. I think if
Oh.
we just learn it, I mean, I
Then you're
could
good.
show everybody
Yeah.
what it does, because we should keep everything to do with the board meetings in there. I mean, it'll follow along automatically with the board meeting too, so even if people, who are out here in the audience or what have you, as we go through the meeting, there's a screen view
Mhm.
that will keep track of where we are in the meeting, so even people watching while we're staring at our
Is
computer.
there a text to speech so you don't have to take notes?
I don't know.
Just
That'd be
thinking
nice.
I'd help out Rosanna.
Google does. keep just talking.
Okay, so
There's
Okay,
some-
so on
exceptions
this
for-
one, their concern is, so if you look at the federal code that we cited, we took that directly out of
Right.
code. The kicker is if you look at Idaho code, so Title 18, Chapter 33, so it's 3302D, and you scroll down, it says, any adult over 18 years of age and not enrolled in a public or private elementary or secondary school who has lawful, so they're talking about you have your concealed weapons, are allowed to secure it in your car. The administrators would like that, they're just that one line to include it, because we have 18-year-olds that are seniors. They're not allowed to bring a gun and store it in their car per Idaho code. And so they just want that to be included, like the way that the language in the code specifically says is any adult over 18 years of age and not enrolled in a public or private elementary or secondary school who has lawful possession of a firearm or other deadly or dangerous weapon secured and locked in his vehicle in a non-threatening manner. Like they just want it to make sure that 18-year-olds can't have, if you're attached to a school, you can't have a gun either.
What is it? 33.
3302D.
3302D.
No, 18.
18/3302D, sorry.
It's okay. 18.
And
3302D.
I'm looking
It's
at,
on the. It's on here.
Yes.
and I'm looking at E, the very,
18. Wait, where am I? Wrong chapter. Wrong title.
so we cite it. And so I told them that we actually cite it, but they would like that one part to be a little bit more clear. Keep going. It's right, it's under 4. Oh, you're too far. It's closer to the top.
Yeah, go up.
I'm under 3302D, Rosanna, actual D. Yeah. So then keep going.
Yep, to number 4. That's right.
Uh-huh.
There you go. Okay, so then.
So they just want that to
There you
be,
go.
because a teacher brought up a concern of like, okay, so we have an
E, C, D,
18-year-old
right there, yeah.
and they have something stored in their mat, you know. While they're looking at that, Rosanna, I'm gonna make an example of what Michelle
Yeah,
was talking
I was
about,
just gonna
specific
go
to
into-
this one, so you can see it.
This computer. Okay.
Do we wanna call it historical versions?
I would say yes.
Okay. Okay, Rosanna, will you flip back to 3330, the actual policy? And then, okay, so you, technically this, the last time this was approved was 7/13/22.
Yes.
So if you, so that's how I think it would read. And again, that's not what gets uploaded to the district website in the sense of all you would put on the district website is the 3330 student discipline. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But then now go to 3330 in the board policy and see how I set that up.
Yes.
So then if we make changes to this version that Michelle's working off of would go in the historical versions, and then our newest one, which would be August 17th, 2022, would then be the standalone. See if Michelle's good with that, Michelle Ramona. So go to wherever you have policies. So go to 3000. 3330. Your thing is funky. This is how this looks. So
She has it going, you need your arrow going the other way, just so you know.
So, does that make sense? So this was the
Yeah.
last approved one we're working
Yeah.
on, and then if you go and click on historical versions, anything
All
we've done
of
on it is
Everything's
right there.
Got it.
Right.
Is that good?
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I
Okay.
wanted. Because I don't like having to scroll through everything to try and figure out where we are.
I'm starting to read your brain.
Thank you. That's a scary
You're
place to be.
speaking my language.
Um,
Does that make sense, Rosanna?
Uh-huh.
so if you click on 3330,
Okay.
I copied.
Added.
Yeah, well, I copied and pasted
There
the
you go.
statute. I don't know who wrote pursuant to C. That wasn't on the policy, but
Oh,
if you go to page 5,
yeah, I can. Fireman's office started sign up is an exception for me. I think that's perfect. That's the actual law.
that is what the law states.
Can we take off the?
I just want to make sure. I mean, I wanted you bodies to see that I just sort of copied and pasted
No,
what
I
the
think that's
statute said.
perfect. And they'll feel better about that.
And I don't know what this pursuant to C means.
Yeah, because it's not.
I think someone just put it there.
Yeah.
Did you put that there, Ramona? Did you,
No.
Rosanna? Huh,
I know,
interesting.
I don't know.
Okay,
I think they'll be super happy with that.
alright, so then we can, because it is the law and it's,
So then 3330 will be coming back up for board approval.
yes. But,
Okay. Rosanna, I'll fix those links for 3320 and then I'll link the bottom one in when they're done and we're ready to go for the actual.
Okay. And you'll let me know when it's good.
okay,
I'm gonna link it in the bottom.
Okay.
So right now we have 1415, 3320, and now we're adding 33.
30.
student discipline, so I'll link in that. Okay, moving along, I know we're not gonna get into this, but, you guys did ask me to have Brian follow up with eye cramp or insurance specific to the dog situation, so if you go to the policy, I linked it in here I took the direct email, what they said, doesn't sound like there's any issues.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
This one here, Dr. Lynn?
yeah, I just linked it in the bottom, I didn't put an actual link in, I just put the actual email there. So that's what their response was.
Okay.
But I think the two pressing things that we have to talk about is, Ramona, your idea, we're gonna add this to registration, cause registration is gonna be coming up in a couple of weeks.
Okay, what was my idea?
Remember we were talking about like a sign-up sheet for parents
Right.
at registrations, like
Right. Oh, for the committees and all that, oh, okay.
So we really probably need to wordsmith this, and then
Okay.
next, we don't have to do that today,
Okay.
but if we want that, if you want it on the August, if we're taking this to board approval, because I think that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is registration.
Okay,
And then the only other thing that we really have to get to is attendance policy. Just, those are pressing before school starts, and then we
Right.
have all the rest of the annual policies, but
okay.
if we want this to be
Is there-
available to parents.
Is that linked
Where-
on here?
It's linked in, under, board committee sign-up sheet, it's on our policies for board consideration doc, I've just left it on there. And we talked about, I don't think I made changes for that. We talked about not saying committee, just budget. Curriculum.
Yeah, and then how did we pick, I mean, some of these, obviously, there's not that many people, so we just take who we get, but like those, like I don't know who's on any of these committees or what their, any notes or contact, and I know we had talked at one time, like the long range committee or strategic planning committee, whatever. Those two, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of people wanting to give input.
I know we have a list of that. I have a list of the curriculum people. I know that. I don't have a list of like who's on budget. We don't have anybody that's for policy other than the four of us.
Right, well, but.
I do know long range planning.
Yeah.
Lisa has a list of the parent advisory, but the strategic, that's the strategic and the long range are, how are we gonna do a subcategory of that? Cause
Mhm.
are we separating those out?
I don't know, I saw long range as all of them.
Right.
Lisa
Right.
has a different idea, so I don't know, all I'm thinking is they need to be, like everything else, they should, in
Mhm.
board book where we have the committees,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they should be named in there because we have no idea who's even on there, because we had talked about
Right.
if we got a lot of people, you know, that are willing to sit and do this, we needed to make sure that we had from the different,
Right.
you know, persons in the district, whether they're business owners or
Mhm.
parents or blah, blah, blah. And if we had multiple, we were just gonna simply do a draw the name out of the hat kind of thing,
Right.
you know?
So I know that, do you remember when, that Chrissy was still the clerk?
Mhm.
She sent out 3 there were 3 surveys that went out. Like there was a budget, a curriculum, and then there was a third one. So like I know I have access to that. You guys have access to that. We have a list of those names. I know we have a list of budget was one of those. There wasn't very many people. I have a list of the curriculum people. Lisa does have a list of the long range, and then we have a list of the parent advisory. Do you want me to compile all of that into just one sheet of here's the list that we have so far, and then when this goes out, then we can add any additional names and then have a conversation once we know?
Well, they have to be handled just like this is. This is with the recording and the minutes
Right.
and here's who attended.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. We need all
Right.
that in board book.
Right, because right now you
separated.
don't have
Right.
that. Right.
So that when we go back and
Uh-huh.
look, like that was never done even with the prior. There was no history after
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Isn't there a difference though between if a committee is because the board is doing the committee versus if it's an administrative committee?
The only difference, anybody that is bringing recommendations to the board or bringing, hey, we think this, is a committee of the board. It has to be handled. They can make like their district leadership team and all that.
Yeah.
Those committees have nothing to do with the board. Unless they're bringing recommendations to the board,
Okay.
then they have to be, you know, here's who's on the board, here's the meeting minutes for the board, that's the defining structure. Anybody that brings anything to the board where the board's, or information that's brought to the board for the board to make a decision has to be ran that way.
Okay. So think about this though. We have all those parents that we never have a meeting. I submit all of the links for the curriculum, and they give us feedback and give you a recommendation.
Right. And we don't know who they are or.
I mean, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I have a list of who they all are, but we don't. There would never be minutes because we never have an official meeting.
Right.
What would I do with
Well,
that?
the minutes would be in.
I have all my emails.
Right, and that would sort of be the minutes. Here's what was said in the email. Here's the feedback that was.
Okay.
So we have it all. There's stakeholder input for the.
Yeah.
We have it all. It just needs to be gathered,
And
just
I
like an agenda and blah blah blah.
And I save all those emails.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the quote meeting, that's. That can be, whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
We just have to make sure that we're documenting.
So what do you need from us on this form?
I just want you to tell me you like this and you're good, and we're gonna ask principals to have it out at registration. If there's something else you wanted to say or something else we wanted to, that was.
Available, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
We only have spots for 3 committees with board book,
Oh, okay.
Oh.
but we're only given, so even their premier, and I don't think the board understood this, has tiers, and it doesn't say that on their website anywhere. So even though we have the top, we don't have the top tier, I guess, so we're limited to 3 committees, but we'll have to email them and see if we can.
Well, we weren't presented with pricing on the various
premier?
tiers.
Yeah, no, but I don't know that anybody knew that. I think we thought when we bought the Premier, I think it was presented to us as this was
This is the supreme.
the whole package
I'm
deal.
sure people knew that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we just went with the cheapest to appease the board
Yep,
in stepping the ladder.
yep. So when I emailed them asking about why the documentation portion wasn't turned on if we had Premier, they said, oh, well, that's tier 2.
Okay.
So then I asked him, I guess I didn't send it. Oh, wait, yeah, I did.
These, so
What's that?
I fixed those 3320s.
Okay.
So I just wanna make sure you guys are good with this. However
Okay,
we
I've
have
been
it
playing with
before
the
we
format.
give it to, have our, principals have it out at registration, and I just figured we'd make, copies, they'd fill it out and then turn it in to the principal, and then they would turn it in to me, and I'd start gathering all those names and having Rebecca help me compile a list.
Okay,
That's how I envisioned it, unless you guys want it done differently.
that's fine.
Yeah, it looks fine to me.
I've been playing with the formatting. 'Cause that's what I do. And I don't know of any other committees at the moment, so I think those all look really good.
Yeah, I just tried to list anything and everything I thought we would. Okay. So in, attention to detail, I changed the top, so it says Lisa Arnold. Do you feel like I should list, you guys as the board somewhere, your guys' names, since this is a,
I would say no,
okay,
only because, you know, the board changes
mm-hmm,
and
okay.
you don't want to have to be chasing down forms with our
Mhm.
names on it. At least I wouldn't think that, but
So the only other question, and I think we could do it both ways or just one way, so we talked about having this passed out, like it's just a sign-up sheet and then it gets turned in and we have a paper copy. Do we want at some point, right before registration, I convert this to a survey and we send it out to parents in a survey form so they also have a digital way? Because now that everything is online, we will have parents that don't come in.
right.
So do we do both?
It should just live on the website
It
for
should.
anybody, cause it's not just for parents, so
Right.
it should be a fillable form on the website and
Okay.
they can just do it at any time.
Convert this to
And then we can remind parents when we do, the little monthly newsletter or,
Mhm.
you know, both electronically and whatever else Lisa's gonna do, then we can remind them that it's there. And that way it's easier for us, cause sometimes I get just people in the district that are all like,
Mhm.
oh, hey, you know, how do we
Yeah.
do this or that? And I keep
Yep.
sending them to the website, oh, you can go here, so it would be
Yeah.
good to.
Okay, I will have Rebecca work with me to make this fillable. I just feel like Lisa will have to send something out just because if they
Right.
won't know it's there, but that
Right.
way we have it digitally. I still think a paper copy is good for the people that come in, and we definitely have people that they don't, the fillable is stressful
Right.
and yeah, okay.
Well, it should be an actual form on the website.
Right.
So nothing they have to download or fill or anything,
Right, it's
like,
yep,
and you hit the button and it sends it. So I used to have a login to the website also. I think it does forms.
this is a stupid question. I recognize it's a stupid question, but because I'm not, well, that's not true, but how does the fillable work? Who does it go to?
Well, you would tell it who to go to.
Okay.
So when they hit this, so the directions.
Dumb question.
No, so when the directions to the form are, once I hit the submit button, what do I do with this? We would tell it, oh, email it to this person
Okay.
and fill in this spreadsheet
Okay.
or fill in this.
Because like I know what happens with all of our surveys, I direct that, but I don't, I mean like we did our fillable forms specific to enrollment, open enrollment, and so
Mhm.
Rebecca and I were talking about, Janelle made it, so is it automatically gonna go to Janelle, so we have to change that, so unless we directed it to go somewhere else, I didn't know if you could direct it, or if it's just the owner is the one that gets it.
No, you should, if it's
We can direct
smart enough, you should be able to direct it to whoever.
So I'm gonna ask her to look
You know,
specific to this
yeah.
and specific to the open enrollment,
Mm-hmm.
cause we made those nice pretty fillable forms.
Yeah, we did.
So, but I
Can you
Janelle
pause the movie,
made it.
the
video?
recording? Yeah.
We're good with this, we all feel clarity on
Yeah,
this?
I think so.
Okay, so we only have half hour with Michelle where everybody, cause we're stopping 11:15, and again, we have time to tackle this next week. This Friday's gonna be, but it's the attendance policy.
Actually, I have to leave it. Well,
You have
we have to end at 11 because I
Okay,
have
so
to
we
be
have
on the road
15
by
minutes, so
11:15.
we can talk through this, and so that way next week we can really just start diving in.
Right.
So go ahead, sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say Ramona and I did look at this last
Mm-hmm.
meeting, and we were curious why. Hold on, let me go into there before I speak out of turn.
I've been doing that a lot lately. You can join me now.
Wait, it's not 3350, it's 3050, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Why the draft was of Model 3 when we have 1 through 4?
So
why was that one chosen? Was that one your
it's the one that was most aligned to the one we currently had, and
Oh,
so this was one I had Lisa help me with, and then I actually
Okay.
met with both principals just to get all of the where it says Lynn Pasley comments, those are
Okay.
actually Lisa. She was on my computer going
Okay.
through it,
Alright.
and then Ryan added a comment. So we just picked A3 because it was the most
One
most
that was
aligned.
Okay.
But I wanted you to have all 4 versions, and then you can see the old one, and then I even attached the attendance letter that was changed at some point, I don't know when, so that you just had everything.
okay.
But, ISBA has 4 different versions, so depending on which one we want to go with.
Okay. Did you, I guess would be the answer, or I don't know if Rosina would have done it, but did you happen to go through all 4 documents to see what their significant differences were? I mean, what they were highlighted for?
I mean, I did. I'm making my brain work right now. I feel like Model 1 is all about the 90% attendance rule. There's not a lot, if I remember correctly, there's not a lot of penalty attached to that one.
Okay.
Model 2, there was a warning letter. Again, hardly any substance to that one. 3 is the one that had more substance, and then 4 it does it like the 10-day policy rule. That's basically it and what you would do. I mean, again, they're pretty limited in where I feel like 3 kind of absorbs all of them together and it's a little bit more outlined.
Okay.
So like in alternative 4, it says the 10-day policy, students can accumulate 10 absences. This includes excused and unexcused, but does not include extracurricular. And it just kind of says a note. It just kind of defines like what you're going to do if there is some absences. And again, there's not a lot of penalty attached to it.
Okay.
And I mean, when talking with all of the principals, I mean, the one thing that they said, and I even asked them this week again, what they would love and where they felt like they had, and I only talked to secondary, because that's where there's a lot of teeth to it. But they said what worked the best is the year that they said when you have that 6 absences, and they're talking specifically unexcused absences, they called home and they really worked with parents to come up with a plan to incentivize, figure out what's going on, why is the kid not coming. So it was really collaborative with the parents. If you got past that 9 absent, so the moment you hit 10, it was now the parents are working with them to petition for credit.
Okay.
You don't have that factor for elementary and middle school outside of 8th grade, so the petitioning piece. So that's the kicker, is everybody did the absence letter and like really tried to work with parents, but beyond, when you get to 10 and on, there wasn't a lot of teeth, because what do? You can't withhold credit.
Okay.
There's not credit to be withheld, I guess.
Okay.
And the other thing is we have no way to identify unless we go back and compare and highlight what was changed from the actual model policy. Cause a different text or color or anything wasn't used.
Well, so many of them are so different, I would have had to have every A1 look different, like a different color than A2, than A3, than A4.
No, I mean, this one that you guys chose is the draft.
Yeah,
Whatever you changed in this chosen form.
I could go back and do that. That wouldn't be a big deal. Yeah, cause the one that we did use, it was 5 pages long. And the Model 3 was, well, it's only 2.
And then what was the greatest difference between the one we currently have and this? I don't know why we, the other one, what was wrong with the other one that we have?
I mean, they would say nothing.
Oh,
I mean, I think they liked it, except for Ryan's comment. He said, if you expand your responsible for meeting all graduation requirements, read the sheet containing these requirements
Mhm.
carefully. You cannot receive your diploma. Students who reside in our district are seeking this was another issue. If a student is dual enrolled, they are considered a non-diploma seeking. Would it be easier? I mean, I know we don't have a lot of time. Would it be easier if I took the draft 3 and what we currently have and then do exactly that, do the red and the blue? Would that make it easier?
well, I mean, that's just what the board's used to seeing
Yeah.
and, yeah.
I tried
think-
not to muddy the waters, so why don't I do it that? I just didn't wanna do it until you guys had a draft you liked.
Yep.
So I'll do that for next week, specific to, do you want me to do it with all 4 versions?
No,
Just version 3?
yeah, just the,
Okay.
what we had, same like we always
Mhm.
do, what we
Yep.
have, what they have, and then
And
here's
current.
the changes,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
So that way we can
Yep.
actually see too what's,
Good question. Why do we say students are expected to attend all assigned classes each day? Aren't they required to do that?
Yeah, but parents can excuse them if they have a dentist appointment.
Right.
Or
I mean, they're required to show for school,
right,
but if something gets in the way of that, then
Right.
there's a workaround.
right,
but it
why
is
do
a requirement, yeah.
yeah. I think it was that it's softer. Expected is softer.
it is? But I think it is
Yep.
also inaccurate, because if there's an expectation and you don't meet the expectation,
Right.
oh well,
Yep.
life goes on. Damn it, darn it.
So I'll do that. That'll make life easier.
It's like something like this chocolate chunk, like they had oatmeal or something in it.
You can't have those.
Mm-mm.
That's no big deal.
I mean, I could, but
Thank you.
especially I used to love maple bars, but yeah, definitely.
It's not worth it.
Pay for it, yeah. And the thing is like it might be almost nothing, especially if I take a bunch of antihistamines. But then like 2 or 3 days from now, then it could really hit me. That's the thing is I never know when, you know how it is.
Yep, I do.
And then you're in your
hit you
head.
at the least opportune time.
Mm-hmm. Then you're trying to backtrack in your head everything that you may have ingested.
Exactly. And then it's just not fun.
I really don't like the first paragraph. It's kind of it just is weird.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to Ryan's statements?
Did you?
Oh no.
We can go back.
Oh no.
Let's see. Let's go back.
Actually, I think isn't there a way to be like
Look at a previous version.
Mm-hmm.
no? There's a way to see all comments.
Oh yeah, you just go up to the top where the comments are.
This little
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah, here.
The very top.
This one.
Yep. It's still there. Scroll down. Keep
Oh,
going.
there he is.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's still there. We didn't lose it.
Okay. But I think what I did was I took out his thingy
Right, the highlighted.
because I was making the
Mhm.
rows go back up.
Yep.
Alright, so I wonder I should just go. Okay, there we go. Alright, so. That's what it does. It's not gonna let me
Is
do
this
that.
somebody
That's
here? What's
driving me nuts. I want to keep it there, so we'll just leave that way, so his
Well,
stuff is still there.
You have to be leaving in about 3 minutes, so do we want to stop here and just
Yeah.
wrap up and make sure we're all on the same page for next week?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
So stop the recording.